All right, we should be live. Just going to double check that we're live. All right. And yes, we are live. So welcome to the morning round of the Roger Hale Chess Celebration, round 4 here. We have a very special guest, Grandmaster Alisher Suleymenov, going to pull up his intro here. So Alisher is a full-time chess professional, member of the Kazakhstan national team, Olympiad player, qualified for multiple World Cups, and has classical victories over famous players including Carlsen, Artemiev, and Guijarro. In that one, he actually clinched board 1 to have a huge upset over Spain. Kazakhstan beat Spain in the Olympiad in Chennai. So very happy to have him on. Going to analyze some of our tournaments games from last night, and also going to do live coverage of round 4 this morning. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for such a nice words here. And hello, dear spectators. I'm very happy to be commentating for you today. And yeah, let's just start. So I guess we'll cover the games that was played yesterday. So here on the screen we can see the game is already there. So let's begin.
This was board 1 between the favorite Sammy and Jordan Tim. He's very known as an attacking player. He's a recent national master. Really knows his tactics. So we got Ultra Solid FM as black and Tactical Beast as white.
Okay, great. So d4 was played, d5, and now knight c3. After knight f6, usually white goes either bishop f4 or bishop g5. But in this game, white has chosen bishop f4, which is usually called like a Jabava-London system.
Yeah, Jordan plays this every game, so he's very familiar with the Jobava.
Yeah, I see. Actually, I should note that the name of this opening is called, it used to be called Jabava London these days, but originally it was called another way. So, but since, nowadays, like active players are very famous, so that's why sometimes, these names can always change. But yeah, Jabal is a very, very strong player. Maybe we can even call it legendary. Call him. So yeah, it's Jabal on the system. Black played a6. There are many moves. e6 is also possible. For instance, Black can even play g6. So it's just a matter of taste mostly. Usually the system doesn't really give much advantage for white, but at least it is interesting and can surprise your opponents sometimes. But these days it is kind of famous already. So if you play knight c3 and bishop f4, usually your opponent is going to be familiar with it. So, but probably Jordan is very happy to play this opening here. So, and he doesn't even care that his opponent can prepare or something like that. Yeah. So e3, e6, g4. Okay. So this move seems to be a theory, I guess. Honestly, I don't know the theory of this variation much because usually I play something different with white, and with black I don't really face this system so often, and usually I play something different, like with black, for instance, instead of a6, I think I play mostly e6, or I think I made some other moves as well, but not a6. So yeah, white goes very dynamic here, trying to play very ambitiously here. So g4 is, of course, the move that you don't want to play in every single game, but on the other hand, here it suits the style of the opening, I think, that white is willing to play aggressively here and just to have some really interesting fight. So here g4 makes a lot of sense, actually. And it's, I would say, in the spirit of this opening. So black played c5. Looking at the time management, they were prepared. So they didn't really spend any time here. So some rook is still in his prep. He plays c5 without thinking. White plays g5, knight d7. Also, everything's prep. All the moves are natural. White has grabbed some space on the king side by means of g5, but on the other hand, it's kind of a bit weakening move. So it really depends a lot on what is going to be going on in the future. So then we can call the move g5 either weakening or a very strong attacking move. So queen g4, yeah. Looking at the time management, it seems like a prep, but to me this move doesn't look so obvious. Since it's probably a prep, and also looking at the evaluations that it is still remaining like the same. I mean, if I would play this with white, probably I would just choose something different, because queen g4 looks way too original for me. But since it's a computer suggestion, and nowadays chess became just much different than before, so nowadays this kind of unnatural moves can be very strong.
There's a good chance that it isn't prep, because Jordan does just play super fast. So he might be out of prep. He might be out of prep and just playing fast. But this also could definitely be prep, because that is one advantage of playing the Jobava, is you get it every single game versus almost every single opponent. So you get a ton of experience, and it's a lot easier to stay in your prep. But black does, since it is a little bit more dubious, black does have a ton of different options, which increases your burden. But if you play it every game, maybe you've seen every system. But also a good chance he's bluffing. And just, I think he wants to play an attacking game no matter what. Even if he's going to be sacrificing or taking some big risks. You know, he definitely doesn't want this to get into solid territory. Sammy is known as Mr. Solid and will really beat even way stronger players, outclassing them in endgames and stuff. So it's a pretty good strategy, I'd say.
Yeah, and as you described, Chris, Jordan is an attacking player, while Sam is mostly just a very solid player. Actually, white already starts their game very aggressively, and that clearly fits what actually Chris said just now. And I would say the same for black, as black currently just plays very solidly, as Chris described again. So, yeah, very interesting game. But Chris told me that it might be not a prep because Jordan likes to play fast. But here, actually, since the evaluation hasn't changed, I do think that it is still prep, because queen g4, I think, is a very unnatural move. I would never even consider this move in this position, because it seems very strange at the first glance. So I would just never even think about this move. But yeah, and even if you're an attacking player, I think queen g4 looks very unnatural. So I do believe here in this exact situation, it is probably a prep. So let's go forward. Before it happened, a logical sequence of moves. White's trying to play mostly on the king side, while black is trying to play on the queen side. Okay, so I guess we should go a bit faster, not trying to go way too deep into analysis. So queen g3, natural move. Okay, bishop b7, bishop c7, bishop g2. Everything is natural, but here after bishop g2, before black seems to be overtaking the initiative because the bishop may not be that good on the g2 because it's just staring down to d5 pawn. It can only be placed kind of well if white succeeds of pushing e4 and just trying to open up this bishop. But otherwise, it will be just blocked by this pawn. And that's why I think maybe bishop g2 was not such a good decision here. But even even if it is not great, I don't think white can be much worse. I think after bishop g2 before black has overtaken the initiative, but not much. So black is only a bit better. Knight e2, knight c6, everything is pretty natural. Actually, knight c6, I would say, was a very good human move, but the best move for here was to play a5 for some reason. Probably just wants to play bishop a6. Yeah, I would say the position is very difficult to play for both sides. Both sides have their I would say pluses and minuses in his position. Probably prefer black a bit, but yeah, this position is very tricky to play. But knight c6 happened. Now knight e3. It's probably around equal here, but again, the evaluation doesn't really matter so much because the position is very complicated. So h4 apparently was not that great after bishop a6. It is more clear what to do with black because like white played h4 while black's king is still on e8, so that means that it might be not that fascinating to attack black's king here because it might just go to the long side, maybe sometime, but still, even though objectively black is a bit better already, but the character of the game still remains the same. The position is very complicated. So h5, bishop e7, so far logical, yeah. While I play g6, computer doesn't really like this move, but to me it looks very logical because actually, since white has played h4 and h5 on his last moves, it is logical that he plays g6. So even though computer is not agreeing with this, I would say this is a humanly logical move. So takes. Now f6. Black doesn't want to exchange these pawns because otherwise, just his king shelter will be a bit weakened. That's why f6 is a very good move here. And f4 here actually there's probably a blunder or something like this. Although one has spent 6 minutes, so maybe it was just a decision to sacrifice the piece. But to me, it looks like it is far from enough for the piece. Black takes here. White took only 6, but queen h3 might have been a bit better. But still, I don't really believe in this attack because black has too many pieces around his king. So the computer line goes like this, and white has only one pawn for the piece. Of course, yeah, white can take on g7, for instance, but there will never be any mate in the future at all because black's king is very safe on c7. White has only 2 pawns for the piece. Of course, the position is still complicated, but objectively, black is nearly win here.
This has to be a nice opponent for someone like Mr. Solid. You know, when they're gonna go forward, always you just need to play solid moves, sit back, be logical and calculate, and you don't need to do too much to win the game because your opponent is going to take all the risk. Compared to, if you're 24-50 and playing down and your opponent's playing for a draw with white, a lot less appealing on trying to find those winning chances. So I imagine Sammy was pretty happy with how this game played out.
Yeah, I would agree with you totally, Chris. And yeah, sometimes it's just not that pleasant to play against opponent who just wants to make a draw as fast as possible. And yeah, usually the easiest way to beat your opponent is to just punish him for his mistakes. And when your opponent goes just all in to complicate matters and win the game, but usually that is very risky. So here, Jordan went on to play very aggressively, and that didn't really work out. But actually, that strategy might be the best against a stronger player. Let's say if you're playing a stronger player than you. Here, I guess, Chris, what was the difference between the ratings? Because I see Narayan and Samruk has around 2400, while Jordan's rating is not showing up here.
So. Yeah, the ratings are not going to be accurate because it pulls in the FIDE ratings automatically, and everything here is USCF rated. So this isn't even a FIDE rated tournament, but Jordan is around 2200 and Sammy is 2450. So he's far and away the one seed. Yeah, I'm thinking we actually want to get to the live games by 11. So let's just, for the rest of the games from, we got a great look at this one. Let's just look at the quick openings from the rest of the games. Just do a quick breeze through the openings, and then we'll jump over to the live games to make sure we're getting coverage of all the live action too. So
so should we finish this, or should we? Let's go
to the end. Since we did so much on this one, let's just quickly go to the end, and then the rest of the games we won't go to the end. We'll just do the opening part.
Yeah. So here we jump to another game.
Perfect. So this is between Andrew Titus. So he's the 2 seed. He's also very strong, 2300 plus, and Nathan Hoover is the club. Basically runs the tournaments at the club. He runs my main tournament on Thursdays. Almost been running the club for decades, and as far as a regular tournament director, so always on the scene. And he's currently about 2140. So Andrew definitely a big favorite here, but Nathan could definitely give him a run for his money as well.
Okay. Sure. Let's start the opening. Rule Lopez. White plays d3. White decided to play d3 instead of castle because I guess White didn't really want to face the open Spanish, so that's why d3 happened. Bishop c5, short castle d6. Pretty standard.
Nathan actually plays the open Spanish as well. I mean, Nathan plays every opening, but he did play an open Spanish game recently, so. And
it reminded me.
Dillsworth with knight takes f2, and Nathan played all the perfect moves. His opponent varied first.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to say, it reminded me, Ramesh Babu Pragnananda, who played the open Spanish in the first round of candidates lately against Firuja. So open Spanish is a very interesting opener, of course, but yeah, Andrew decided to not allow Black to play an open Spanish. So it feels like a very, very solid position for Black. Here, computer thinks that d5 was not a good move, after which White overtook the initiative and decided to just go for some attack here. So it's showing big advantage, but humanly, I wouldn't say that it is so horrible for Black, but yeah, the computer thinks that it is just not good. So, and then let's jump to another game. It is
We got
Yes,
David
Chris.
Schreiber against Joseph 1. So the high seed here is Joseph. He's 2,300 plus as well. I think the 3 seed in the tournament, which makes sense since he's playing on board 3. And David is, I'm not too familiar with him, but I believe he's at least expert or 2,100 plus. We got a very strong field for this tournament. So Joseph going to be a favorite, but David definitely higher rated as well.
Okay, so we see c4, b6. b6 is not such a popular move against c4, but when the players choose b6 against c4, it usually means that they want to play for a win, trying to complicate matters. Objectively, I think it might be a bit dubious, but if Black knows his stuff very well, then why not to play it? So we see e4, e5. Objectively, I think after d4, White is just better, but White decided to play e4 with an intention to play d4. But Black played e5, I think a completely correct move, not to allow White to occupy the whole center. So here still might not be that good for Black, but at least Joseph managed to complicate matters a bit and trying to play for a win. So because here after knight f3, knight c6, yes, Black has this d4 square, which Black can occupy, but on the other hand, the bishop on b7 is very bad because it's just completely blocked by this pawn. Black can always put d3 in order not to make the e4 pawn hanging in the future, if White plays d4, let's say. But even White can still play d4, takes, and then play f3. So the bishop on b7 is not such a good piece here. But at least the opening is very, very original and full of play. So d4, White plays pretty logically. Bishop c5, knight f5. Yeah, it reminds me some Scotch game where like Black plays 3 bishop c5, let's say a bit similar to either Scotch and so also King's Indian defense. So yeah, Black's position seems to be a bit worse, but White has to play very accurately to prove that. But h4 was a very aggressive move, which wasn't so good here because Black leads in development, and after queen e7 f3, Black has a pretty solid advantage in development. So after, let's say, queen e5 or any other move, Black is at least not worse and can only be better. So and Black managed to win this game. So let's move on to another game. Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say this is good. Let's just go through the rest of these games really quick, and then we'll jump to the live games. So here we've got Okay. He states, he wins a lot of the tournaments that have smaller audiences, especially. But this one definitely has a super powerful crowd, so maybe he's not the favorite to win this one, but he's 2250, I believe, 2200 plus always, and kind of a mainstay in the tournament scene. And Irene is an expert, having an excellent tournament. She's already playing some really strong chess and getting some good upsets, so it makes sense why she's on the high boards.
It's pretty nice. So d5 happened. White plays c3. White's main move here is to play c4, but White can also play bishop f4, the London system, but White decided to play it very solidly, so to speak. c5 takes. It was clearly a prep from White. c6 b4. So Black sacrifices the pawn, but on the other hand, Black gets a very nice compensation for it. So after b6, it seems that White can't really maintain his pawn up advantage. So he plays bishop b5, bishop d7, takes 6. Now a4 very logical, bc b5. And here we see that even though the position is equal, but the position is full of play, White has 2 passers on the queen side, while black has two strong pawns in the center. And yeah, very nice opening and interesting stuff. Yeah. Bishop d6, bishop b2, castle knight bd2, e5, knight c4. It was probably
Tactics.
just a blunder from white. If black sidesteps with his bishop, white's intention was to just take the pawn, but it didn't work out very well. White has spent only 6 minutes for this critical move, and it was a decisive blunder, after which takes knight e4, queen e5 comes on the next move, and white is busted. So it was just a blunder from white, and white wasn't able to go back in the game. So black just won very convincingly. Although black were making some inaccuracies or maybe even mistakes, but still white's position remained very, very difficult to play, and Irene managed to convert his advantage. So going to the next game. For some reasons the result doesn't show up, but clearly we see that the white player has won the game. So
yep, and here we have two other very strong players, both 2100 plus, I believe.
Okay. So e4, e5, we see Italian game, knight f6. Knight f6 allows bishop, knight g5, but after knight g5, usually d5, ed, knight a5 happens with some complications. White decided not to go for that and just play a calmer variation. Everything's logical. Yeah, I think a5 is not one of the main moves, let's say. I don't think, maybe it was a prep or not, but honestly, I didn't see a5 happening so often here. But yeah, a5 is usually still an interesting move to play. So as a class, bishop 6, everything is so far logical. h6, rook e1. Both sides play very logically. We see some endgame which is completely equal. And, yeah, white managed to somehow outplay black, but here, objectively, it is just totally equal endgame. Maybe I would even prefer black, but white managed to outplay his opponent. So, moving on to the next game.
Yep, so we have two other very strong players. We got Arvind, who's a regular opponent of mine in the Thursday night tournaments, and then expert. And we also have Timothy Rademacher, who's 2150 and known as a very strong attacking player. In the past has even won the club championship.
Nice. So we see the fielder defense here. b7, bishop c4. Everything is so far logical. a4 is a very nice move in order to prepare the a2 escaping square for the bishop in case black attacks it. So a5, queen e2. Usually white plays rook e1 here, I guess, but queen e2 seems logical too, but it can be a bit tricky against the rook on e8. But anyway, queen e2 is a nice developing move. So c6, rook e1, h3, preparing bishop e3. So yeah, knight h7 looks like it is a bit unpleasant for black. So here black got a pretty unpleasant position. White is clearly better, and white managed to convert his advantage. So going to the next game.
Well, we only have 8 DGT boards, so they might run out here if they don't see moves on that one.
I think here.
Oh, he still have moves.
There are moves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. This might be the last one. Oh, there's 2 more. Okay. We got.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do Kyle. We're gonna. This is actually Kyler. It was misspelled in the tournament postings, but Kyler against John, both very strong players, both Thursday night players that are in my tournament. And Kyler is national master. John is a recent expert on the climb.
Okay, nice. So we see d4, knight 64, e6, knight s3, d5, knight c3. There's the openings that I play most of the times with white. c5, we see which is a semi-tsarish.
Yep. My favorite opening.
Yeah, so it's the favorite opening of Greece for black, since Greece is willing to become a very strong grinder, and I wish Greece to learn this opening by heart and to get some nice grinding games in some end games with black, having these 2 pawns against 1. So
yeah, black
everything's
usually
pretty
suffers.
logical.
White gets a lot of attacking chances because they get this huge center, but black gets those endgame assets. So black wants to trade pieces, white wants to avoid piece trades and attack.
Yeah, pretty logical discussion. So bishop e2, usually bishop c4 is the main move, and I believe, I would recommend to the viewers to investigate into bishop c4 for white. Objectively, black is fine, but I like white more in these positions. So bishop e2, b6, castles bishop e7. Here, bishop on e2. From one point of view, it's not staring down to e6 pawn. Sorry. From here, but on the other hand, it is a bit passive here. So there are some pros and cons. So knight d7, c1. Yeah, knight d2. Black is pretty comfortable because white is not attacking, black is exchanging, and it's just totally equal position. And black managed to hold without any problems at all. So yeah, but that's how it went.
They got to press for a win, though. You know, once you get the pieces traded, gotta try to milk that 2-on-1 at the end.
Yeah. So if we look at the game in details here, it seemed like black was very comfortable, and I decided to give a perpetual because otherwise these pawns can be very dangerous here. So in this game, black unfortunately didn't really push. Unfortunately for Chris, let's say, black didn't really push here, but at least black was very solid here. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to study this.
That's how it went.
I'm not good at the endings yet either, but we'll have to. Me and Kyler will have to play some training games. You know, really get our 2-on-1 end games down.
Okay.
All right, this is our last game from yesterday, and then we're going to be moving on to the live games. We just wanted to do a nice recap of last night, and this is the last game.
Okay, let's move on to round 4, right?
Let's do the last game in round 3 first. Between
So,
Dane Madsen and Luke Hengen.
Okay, this is the game, and sorry, so I need to change the background just to make it dark. Okay, so
we got Connor in the chat. I know I've told Alisher a lot about Connor, so yeah, he was commenting yesterday. Beats me up in the club. So
okay, it's pretty nice. You have strong viewers here. So okay, would you give some introduction for the players?
Yes. Please? So Dane Madsen is a very strong player in from out of state. He actually works for chess.com and 2100 plus. Very happy to have him back and hoping to actually get him to know him better as we grow the channel because he has awesome experience. And Luke Hengen, not too familiar with, but clearly having a very strong tournament. That's his FIDE rating, so I'm sure he's probably 1900, 2000 at least USCF.
Okay, great. So we see knight f3. There is a book of Alexander Khalifman about one knight f3 according to Kramnik. So if you want to master one knight f3 for white, just go and check that book. Very nice book. So g6, c4. It might transpose into some perk with e4, or with d4 it might transpose into King's Indian defense as well. It might even transpose into some Grunfeld sometimes. So okay, bishop g7, d4, d6, knight c3. We just transposed into the King's Indian defense, but white has chosen as a variation which is not that popular, but it is still poisonous. Here, bishop g5. White intends to put his pawn to e3, not e4. Bishop e2. Everything looks pretty normal here. Knight e8, yeah. Here white got quite a solid advantage, but g4 was quite an interesting move, but objectively maybe not the best. But I would consider g4 as a strong move, at least, because it seems pretty logical to open up the g file for an attack here in the future. Rook f7, c5. Yeah, black seems to be having a very sad position, because white is already attacking and black is tied down, and yeah, objectively it is already winning for white, but humanly it's not that winning, but certainly a big advantage. So g1, yeah, white plays very well here. Black was able to get a good position from the opening, so that's why black suffers here. White has won an exchange. Now rook g7, very nice move, one of the many moves that wins the game here. Unfortunately, black wasn't able to get a good position. Yeah, queen f5 was a miss for white, because here a simple queen c3 or long castle even is stronger here. Just trying to get rook g1 going, and white is completely winning here, because black is not able to parry an attack at all. So black is totally hopeless here. So, but white played queen f5, after which black has some chances to defend.
It's a lot. I feel like it's a lot easier to make the piece sacrifices when you see bishop c8 and rook a8 locked out of the game. You know, I'm always too that's the one time I'm like, yeah, let's go all in, and they're not going to have enough pieces to defend this no matter what. But full piece sacrifice otherwise gets me a little nervous.
Yeah, and there is a very good rule that dear viewers might remember, is to count the pieces in the attack and in the defense. Like, for instance, you can even sacrifice a rook or some light piece, let's say something like this, and even if you're down some heavy material, but you have much more, let's say, attacking pieces than defending pieces of your opponent, you can still consider that and just be confident psychologically about it. And I feel like this rule is very good to remember. So queen f6 happened, pretty logical. Black, of course, wants to just exchange the queens, otherwise black will be just checkmated here. King f8. King f8 was a miss. So black could have played king h8. And here's the idea was that if white insists on taking the piece, actually it is okay for black, because the pawn on b2 is very strong, and tactically black actually regains the pawn here, because queen c3 happens, and after king f1, b1 queen takes queen d3. Actually it is already winning for black, but white has bishop e5 check. After it takes 6, it is mathematically just a drawn position, but everything can happen here. So white missed a win, and black didn't manage to find a defense as a defense here. So king f8, bishop g7. Now it's a different story, because bishop g6 comes with a check with a tempo, and white is completely winning here, unfortunately for black. So queen c4 check. Now the exchange happened Yeah, and white won the game because after c3, the pawns just are stopped, here. And if you take here, let's say if black takes instead of c3 on c8, I can just play bishop e5. Let's say rook d8. I can just take and go back. Let's see. They're just completely winning for white.
The pawns look scary, but they're a little overestimated without some supporting cast.
Yeah, unfortunate game for Luke, but we hope to see some future games of Luke where we're gonna be covering his victories already. So, should we move on to the live broadcast?
Yes, let's move on to all the live games. So those were all the games from last night. We just wanted to do a nice analysis of those, and I'd say let's just try to get through each game, get caught up, and then we can pick an interesting one to stay on. So let's go from the start.
So, yeah, I decided to click on the first board.
Perfect. And we got a big matchup here. So we basically have, this is probably almost close to a tournament deciding matchup. We got Joseph in the hunt too, of course, and other players as well, but it's from the heavy rating hitters. These two have likely played each other several times in the past on their ascents as both kind of super talents of our local area.
Yes, it's pretty nice, and we're following the main board, first board. Actually, Chris already mentioned these players. These players are very strong. One of the best in this tournament. So here we see a pretty familiar opening. It went through the Catalan. Black decided to pick this opening, which is this line with b5, sacrificing the pawn, but in return getting some nice holdable chances, let's say. And I guess Sam Rook is a rating favorite in this game, right, Chris?
Sam Rook, yep, definitely a huge favorite, but would not be shocking at all to see Andrew upset him.
Yeah,
probably about 100,
so that's why
150 point favorite, maybe 100 point favorite.
Okay, so that's why I would say Black's opening choice was interesting. From one point of view, Black cannot ever win this game at all because Black is a pawn down and Black is fighting for a draw here. But on the other hand, Black is very, very solid, and according to modern evaluations, Black is extremely solid, and there are a lot of chances for some fortresses and so on. But it is usually not my cup of tea, let's say. But it was Andrew's decision, and we're gonna see what will happen in the future. So but objectively, Black is kind of fine here in this variation.
Andrew kind of showing he respects Sammy a bit too much, maybe, with the opening choice.
Yeah, but actually recently it reminded me the game of Ding Liren against Hans Niemann. I just played the World Team Rapid and Blitz Championship, which was held in Astana in Kazakhstan, in my hometown. And actually currently I am in Astana, just on the broadcast here with you guys, and I just played this tournament, and I remember that during the process of following some nice games, I looked at the game Ding Liren against Hans Niemann, and I was pretty shocked with Hans's decision to just go for it against Ding Liren, because Ding's technique is so sublime, let's say. And even though it's objectively kind of holdable for Black, but Ding Liren won very, very easily, I would say. So unfortunately for Hans, that game was kind of one-sided. But actually Hans was okay at some point. He was doing well, but during like the whole game, Dean Liren was just either much better and winning. But at some point, Hans could have saved the game, but he wasn't able to do so. So that was the last game that I remember from this variation. But I believe this variation became popular just only lately, a few years ago. So I played bishop e3, 94. Queen b6 here. Queen c1. Yeah, black has some development advantage here in return for a pawn. Takes, knight c3. I believe this is still a fury, if I'm not mistaken. But looking at the time management, Narayanan Samruk is still in his prep, kind of, while Andrew is by far out of his prep because he has burned already around 1 hour on the clock. And yeah, I would say that I rate Samruk's chances for this game extremely high because, first of all, Samruk has a clear pawn up without too much compensation. According to computer, white is much better, a bit over +1. And also, secondly, the time management tells a lot about this because white has 1 hour and 11 minutes on the clock, while Andrew, who's playing black, against Samruk, has only 40 minutes. So I would say, yeah, white is a huge favorite in this game.
If you're playing a pawn down position like this, do you spend a lot of time, or you try to conserve time and put some pressure on your opponent's clock?
It really depends on the position, let's say. But here, like, if we get this kind of position, first of all, I would try to probably just go deep into the position, trying to just investigate into some interesting options. How can I put up some additional pressure for black? And then after some time, I can just start playing faster because the opponent needs to just somehow counter my pressure. And so it's just like basically two aspects. First of all, I'm gonna just use my time well and try to go deep. And secondly, I will still try to pressure my opponent on the clock because it's just part of chess, and it's a good strategy usually. If you are 1 hour up on the clock, you have to use your time well in order to get an advantage over your opponent. But also you need to somehow put some pressure on him because time management is just part of chess. So you have to combine those things correctly, and yeah, that's what I would do this just here with white, let's say.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to match their speed though. Otherwise, you can maybe counter blunder. I find that I've actually been affected by my opponent's time pressure in a few instances where I have like half an hour or 40 minutes and they have like a minute, and I blunder while they've got the minute. So definitely a balance that takes a lot of experience.
Yeah, it's very true. So should we move on to another game, Chris?
Yeah, let's continue to keep going through. I'd say let's try to just catch up on all the boards just from move one, so we can see where they're at, and then we'll pick one to analyze deeper. So it looks like Irene here is having several huge upsets, so we'll see if she can make a third upset. But rating wise, Dane definitely a favorite here. But Irene may be showing she's a bit underrated.
See, Irene is in a very good shape here. So, and also Irene plays white, so nobody knows what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I've never met her, but definitely taking notice of her games at this tournament.
Okay. So yeah, here the position is objectively equal, but I would probably prefer black because I feel like these pawns are a bit weak, and of course white can go for some e4 stuff here, and it really depends on what's going to happen in the near future. And c5 push doesn't really work here because after gc5 there's no fallout for white. So yeah, and also white has a bit more time on the clock. But I feel like it is a bit easier to play with black here, and I'll probably just pick here black. But objectively, the position is nearly balanced here.
It's always kind of funny to me when a move like c5 does work, even though it doesn't in this position, because controlled by b6, d6, bishop b7. It seems like it would just never be an option, but now and then it actually is if you're clearing c4 for a critical piece, or maybe undermining, maybe d takes is impossible because then you can use the e5 square or something like that.
It depends on the circumstance, let's say, because in some Dutch defenses, let's say, there is a variation which is a bit different from that. But c5, this push in the Nimzo-Indian positions and also Dutch is kind of a typical breakthrough. But here, even if this bishop is protected, let's say on d3, c5 doesn't seem to be working because black can take with a piece in the end, let's say on c5. And here it is just far from be working, honestly. But you have to always watch out for these breaks as black. Because it's kind of familiar in this Dutch and Nimzo-Indian kind of positions. So yeah, let's move on to another game.
Yeah, almost
Board
like
3.
A Nimzo Dutch there almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. So
this is Dane Zagar against Henry Hutton. Dane Zagar is the club president. He recently won 2 national tournaments, over $10,000 in prizes, and over 2,100. And Henry is also a very strong player. So I'm sure they played a good amount in the past. But Dane is definitely club heavyweight and our kind of main organizer.
Yeah, that's great. So we see the exchange Slav here. Bishop f4 happened. Bishop g5 looks to be more popular here in this move order because this is kind of a tricky move, trying to anticipate knight a6 in order to take Dan on a6. And but White decided to play bishop f4. White decided to just play it as solid as possible.
Yeah,
just go for
Dane's
some
not much
symmetrical
of an
stuff.
opening nerd. He's a really strong middle game player, so he'll kind of just let the opponent develop their pieces, no problem. Not going to put pressure on you in the opening, get all his opening stuff done, and then he'll lean in, put pressure on you in the middle game. So he doesn't mind playing a totally equal opening, even as White. Plays Kale, plays Torre. So very solid player, and if you don't know what you're doing in the middle game, he's going to just outmaneuver you.
Okay. So knight h5, h6. Black seems to be in a little prep at least, while Zane Bruno Zagar is just gonna try to play some maneuvering game, mostly relying on his middle game skills. Yeah, g3. Yeah, I feel like g3 might not be great, because after bishop g2, when black plays e6, the bishop on g2 might feel a bit sad. But on the other hand, Zane decided to play it as ambitiously as possible, because he doesn't want to repeat the moves and trying to play it for a win. I think maybe h3 was more interesting to play because you want to just play bishop f4 and bishop h2. But they might have thought that after e6, bishop f4, bishop g6, the bishop can be just exchanged after this, and that's why he might have just thought about this and didn't like it. So, and although knight e5 might be possible here, but we have to calculate this if it works or not. But I guess here it doesn't really work because after knight d7, it's not so easy to defend this pawn. And yeah,
I think this actually
shows, according to computer, it's okay.
I think this actually kind of shows a big difference between, say, a grandmaster and club players. Is, to me, g3, bishop d2 is totally natural. We have bishop on e3. How else is that piece ever getting developed? We need to develop all our pieces in castle. And yeah, we do have alternatives like h3, bishop f4, e3, and then get the bishop out in castle, but it just seems so slow in comparison. But what I'm seeing from you, and also in another game you analyzed, like in the Joseph's game, where you're pointing out his bishop b7 is just terrible. They're going to play, they've got a pawn on e4, they can play d3 and support it, they can play f3 and later and support it. So, I think club players in general just have this idea, bishop g2, that's where it belongs, bishop b7, that's where it belongs. Something will happen with it later. Not really staring at the central pawn structure as much and realizing that actually might be a bad square for it. Catalan bishop isn't always universally good if your opponent can create a pawn structure that opposes it properly.
Here I think g3 is not great because after, okay, let's just proceed. Because white has already played c4 and c takes d5. That means that the white can't really break the d5 pawn at all, and that's why the bishop on g2 is just a bad piece. While the bishop on f5, in comparison, is a much better piece here, because just very free. No starting on g3, it would have been another story, completely another story. So, I mean, if white's pawn is on d3, black can of course play d4, but we're just talking about the position hypothetically. So that's why I'm just trying to tell you, dear viewers, about this like strategical things,
Definitely.
So that's why I think it was more interesting to play. Let's say, okay, white played bishop b3. I think it was maybe more interesting to play bishop d2, and then to play e3 followed by bishop d3. Because the bishop is much better placed on d3 actually here, rather than on g2, staring down to the pawn on d5. Although black might consider this move bishop f5 in order to prevent the move bishop d3, after which white can try to use his development advantage by means of knight e5 and trying to play actively, maybe queen a4 next, maybe queen b3. Looks pretty interesting. If it works out for black, black is fine, but at least white has some hopes here to maintain some initiative and take some advantage after all here.
Could you comment just for a moment? We see the pawn structure is totally symmetrical here. How does that, is there still a ton of play left in the game? How does this kind of totally symmetrical two pawn islands affect the game? Like, say if you had this position, would you already be thinking this is totally dry, or there's a ton of play left?
Yeah, very good question, Chris. So I would say it really depends on the quality of the pieces, because since the pawn structure is totally symmetrical, basically the only thing which matters is piece activity, because here we see that both blacks and white's pieces are positioned a bit differently, which makes the game more interesting than if we see the position being totally symmetrical, even buys the pieces. Let's say we have like this. Black plays also bishop f5 followed by rook c8. Let's say like this, yeah. Just hypothetically, it is totally equal because yes, white has one tempo up, but probably it's not going to matter because black is still very solid. And the only thing where white has some small advantage is only at tempo. While when we look at this position, after let's say bishop g2, knight f6, e3. Okay, we can play bishop f4, but black is gonna continue playing knight h5. So if we wanna play for a win, then we should play e3. So here, yes, the pieces are positioned differently, and that what makes the position being more interesting because white can, let's say, take on c6 in the near future. Let's say if black plays e6. Here, objectively, e6 is not such a good move because after queen a4, black is gonna just most likely drop the pawn. Because if black plays, let's say queen c7, it's already a losing move. Because after knight c6, black has to take with the pawn because of simple tactic. Queen c6, bishop b5, which wins the game on the spot. So that's why black has to play b takes
what if
c6, after which, yeah.
What if b5 earlier? Just there must be a simple tactical refutation, but yeah.
Here, I mean.
b5 here exactly. I see knight c6 is hanging. I guess okay. We'll just take the knight and then take the queen. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the ways to win the game, but knight b5 just kills the game immediately, so black has to resign because he's losing 2 pawns and his king is still in the center. So knight b5 is even stronger here. That's why it doesn't work. So, and after knight b5, some simple variations. Any move wins here, but this move wins the game immediately because black has to play queen d6.
Killer.
So,
and again, we kind of see,
and here,
bishop f8.
Yeah.
Rook h8 totally sidelined when that king's getting mated. I feel like I pretty rarely see a king get mated without some totally undeveloped pieces.
So after queen a4, queen c7, by the way, just looking at these variations, actually after b takes, it might not seem too lost, but white has a mind-blowing bishop b5 move.
Whoa.
Which wins the game immediately. After bishop b5, basically black has to resign the game on the spot because c6 is hanging, and you cannot take with a pawn because of queen takes a8, and you cannot take here because of knight takes b5, a6 takes, and now in the end rook c8 comes, and again black is losing too much material. And otherwise, if the queen side steps, we're going to play queen knight c7 check followed by taking on d7 and knight takes a8, win the exchange and the game, basically.
Wow.
So that's why after bishop b5, kind of knight king d7 holds the pawn on c6, but again knight d5. So the position is way too bad for black, and black has to resign here.
That would be someone's immortal if they found all that.
Yeah, might be. But to be honest, it is not that surprising to me that black is losing there because black has neglected the development way too much here, I feel. So
yeah, and so I guess it is a move that is even potentially findable just because the position looks so crushing. You sit there and stare like I gotta have a win here, and maybe you can eventually throw that on your candidate move list if you're good enough.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's why bishop d2 I feel was better, but white decided to put his bishop on g2, and black is totally comfortable. I would probably prefer black here because of the difference of the bishops. But of course, I mean, even if we talk about some advantage for black, humanly, it's not such a big deal. White is still very solid here. So h3, okay, short castle. g4, white is trying to play some active moves on the king side, but that can be risky because it's not only black's king which is on the king side, but it is also white's king. Yeah, so after bishop h7, even computer already agrees that is already a bit better for black.
So those dark squares getting a little loose.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, white plays this game very, very ambitiously. So sorry, bishop g5. I think knight g5 was a bit better, but still, probably this g4, g5 was way too ambitious. It's kind of interesting in the blitz game, but probably in classical game, it is way too risky. But it's not like white is losing or something. White is just clearly worse here, but white can still fight. So it's still like, although it is objectively not good, but it is at least interesting way to play for white, trying to maybe play king h7, king h1, rook g1, trying to attack on the king side. So knight e4 is a very good move, just winning the tempo on exchanging the bishops, developing the queen onto e7, and we see that black's pawn structure is already better here because white has 3 pawn islands while black has only 2, and this pawn would have been much better on g3. And again, still the difference between the bishops is very clear here, and black is very solidly better here. Knight a4, c8, knight e2. White tries to exchange these knights because this knight on e4 is very strong. Queen g5, very logical move. e3, knight b4, takes, knight f3, g8. And here we see the current position. Black is clearly better here because, again, the same static factors remain. The king safety is in black's favor. Black has a better pawn structure, and also black's pieces are better. First of all, the bishops, also the rook on c8 is more active than on the rook on f1, and also both of black's knights are more active. So if I'm gonna play this position with white, let's say I would be very, very careful here, and to trying to hold this with white. But on the other hand, white has more time, so that's why white has some practical chances to save the game, although black is clearly better here.
So white kind of self-inflicted injuries in this game.
Yeah, black didn't really do anything special. Black just punished for white's inaccuracies, and white just went way too ambitious.
This is how I like to play as black. Just chill, develop my pieces, play good positional moves, and hopefully my opponent gets frustrated by the solid play and overpresses. But only one strategy, but one I definitely like.
Yeah, as we talked before, when we covered the games from the round 3, when we covered the game from Jabava London system, I think Chris made the same feedback about this psychological situation when it is better to play the game solidly and to wait for your opponent to make mistakes. Than to just go yourself forward. So let's move on to another game.
So here we have Arvind, who's, again, we saw his game in round 3, club regular, very strong player, and Buit I'm not too familiar with, but definitely a strong player to be playing on the DGG boards. So let's see what. Arvin's an expert. I'm not exactly sure the opponent's rating. Let me look it up here. But you can go ahead and get started with the game.
So we have Nimzo Indian defense here. Four smooth queen d2. Queen c2. A very, very solid option.
We got my favorite too, along with my pairing with semi-Teresh, Nimzo and semi-Teresh.
Yeah, great. So Black decided to pick this knight c6 move, which is much more rare than both short castle, d5, let's say b6, I think also, and c5. So knight c6 is, I believe, much more rare.
White is 21-10. So we got 21-10 against 20-39 Black. So White's slight favorite, but very even matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, and also since White has the white pieces, White might be a favorite in this game because even though according to the ratings, White is only a slight favorite, but yeah, it depends on the player, of course. If the player plays better with White, and he's even can be like even a more favorite. But here we'll see what's gonna happen. So knight f3, show castle e3, d6. I believe in this variation White is a bit better, but at least knight c6 is an interesting way to play for a win with Black, trying to leave as many pieces as possible. So a5, yeah, b3, a nice move in order to not allow Black to fix these queenside pawns, which is not the end of the world sometimes, but still most of the times you don't want to allow it. That's why e5 is pretty logical. Black is leading in development. That's why he wants to try to just open up the position as fast as possible. But on the other hand, White has two bishops, so that's why Black has to be a bit careful with these plans. But as far as I know, this e5 plan is pretty logical in this position for Black. So that's why I feel e5 is a good move here. D takes, bishop b2. Everything so far is pretty logical. So k8, d1, tempo, bishop a5, castle. Yeah, pretty standard position. I think I had some experience playing it with the Black pieces a few years back during my study at the university. I played a lot of Rapid and Blitz tournaments. And I told Chris that I played a lot of Knights Tango opening.
Two Knights Tango.
I believe I told you. Yeah, two Knights Tango.
Everyone's got their suspicious opening phase on their path, right? Before you get solid, you got to start. You got to start suspicious.
Maybe, but yeah, I think that might not be an ideal strategy. I'd probably recommend to start playing the right openings as fast as possible. But you know, it is not the end of the world if you start your journey, chess career, with such dubious openings. You know, like Knights Tango.
Well, you can give Connor in the audience a heart-to-heart because he likes to play 2 knight a3 against Sicilian, likes to play bishop d3, bishop c2, plays Jobava every other game, you know, really pushes the envelope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's pretty nice Connor. So, yeah, pretty interesting opening choice. And yeah, the most important is to have fun, yeah?
Yeah.
So and
everything works at club level.
Cool. So yeah, talking about this e4 c5 2 knight a3, I believe is actually an investigation from Vadim Zvyagintsov, a very strong Russian player, very creative one. Currently, he still plays chess. He's not as active as before, but he's a very, very creative grandmaster, very strong one. Currently, his rating has dropped a bit, but at his peak, he was extremely strong, close to 2700, I believe. And I played him sometimes, and I talked to him also a couple times, and very, very interesting player in person. So that was his investigation, and it's pretty cool that Connor plays it.
He's got his solid openings too. He can bust out his Suleymenov and his super solid stuff, but he definitely likes to mix it up, especially against low-rated players. But that's the cool part about the club, though. We got all sorts of personalities, and you can start to predict what you're going to see, and playing different styles against different players, all just kind of fun, competitive dynamic that comes with actually knowing your opponents and what openings they play and what their style is.
Mm-hmm. So this is pretty nice.
But we are at a weekend tournament here, and so a lot of these players are from out of town or play pretty infrequently. So there probably is a lot of players playing each other who are kind of unfamiliar with their opponent's styles. So that's probably the more typical situation in the U.S. But we got lucky with our club. We got the DGT boards, and we got the same set of opponents that kind of play over and over. So it almost has a similar vibe to Europe.
I see. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Pretty interesting community. Yeah. Yeah, usually it helps when you know your opponent's style. Yeah, but we all might have some different circumstances, so that's why. Unfortunately, you can't be sure that you always know your opponent's style. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's more interesting when you don't know your opponent way too much, so that you can have some expectations. Yeah, sometimes it's better to not have some expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, and Connor points out in the chat he is still winning most of his games with these creative openings, and it's the same thing with Jordan Tim and with another player in the club, Robert. There's a lot of Tim Rademacher. A lot of really successful players play some openings that are quote-unquote dubious, but put the total pressure on their opponents, and they know them like the back of their hand, so it works pretty well.
I see. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I see we got 3 games left we haven't covered yet, so let's just get through those, an initial look at each of those, and I think we're going to be winding down after that for the morning stream. Let's take a look at the last 3 games.
Okay, so should we move on directly to another game, or should we...
let's finish this if you've got more thoughts here, definitely.
Yeah, sure. So Queen 1. Black is totally fine here because after knight c5, if white plays queen c3, black can always just repeat the moves. But if white plays knight d2, black can at least play knight d3 and win back the bishop pair, after which it seems like it's only black who can be better here, because we can always just play f6, and this bishop won't be too happy with this, as we told before. Looking at some other games with bishop g2 against the pawn on d5, let's say, with bishop on b7 against the pawn on d4. And already computer prefers black here slightly. But knight d3, like, if you sidestep with the queen, then I can take this bishop. And because of black getting more active pieces, it is only black who can be better here. Let's say 4, yeah. Black has more space, black's pieces are more active, black is a bit better. So, but why I decided to repeat the moves? They repeated once. No. So they didn't repeat it. Yeah. I guess Arvind decided to play it for a win with rook a6, a very logical move from one point of view. But since we have a tactical beast of Chris here, can you point out why rook a6 is not
Uh-oh.
such a such an accurate move here?
Yeah. No, he's pointing out my weakness. I'm a tactical weakness. So let's see here. I mean, b4's got to be a prospect. But yeah, b4, a takes is not. Is it just forking after? Knight a5, knight a4 is hitting the queen, so that's probably not going to be it.
And also the pawn before will hang in at the end, so that's why before doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah. Connor in the chat's already got it unlocked for sure.
It's okay, if someone sees it, please just leave the comment.
Yeah.
Below in the broadcast. So
I'm not
just help Chris.
Yeah, help me out because I'm not doing my daily tactics. I'm currently taking a break from over the board studying Rui Lopez, and not the best for my playing chess or my playing strength by any means. But I do plan to do a dedicated tactics project after my Rui project, where I'll be doing nothing but tactics books.
Okay. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, sometimes we have some other things that we have to take care of. Yeah.
Well,
for instance,
plenty of ways to enjoy chess. A lot of the ways I enjoy aren't actually the best for my playing strength. The commentary is fun. Studying openings is fun. Openings definitely don't decide games though, but still fun to try to emulate the pros.
Yeah. So, but on the other hand, Chris is responsible for the stream today. So Chris dedicated some time to somehow fix the stream and to organize it. So, yeah,
that's my go-to excuse for when I blunder. I was busy maintaining the stream.
Yeah. So does somebody see the text is here? White.
All right. Anyone in the chat? White to play. I'm clearly not finding it. I'm gonna keep searching.
Okay.
See if I can. I mean, I gravitate towards my same blunder before, but I mean, what are some of the forcing moves here? E4 maybe hits the bishop. Not seeing much there. I'm seeing bishop e2 staring at rook a6 as the main change in the position, but how to get that pawn forward. Yep, I'm not finding it. All right, and it looks like we don't. Oh, Connor's not finding it either, so that actually makes me feel slightly better. Connor definitely has a lot stronger tactical vision, and he's not seeing any tricks in the chat. So, all right, you got to just show it. You got to show us your tactical vision.
Okay, I believe this tactic is not that hard here, otherwise. So the weakness of the move rook a6 is greatly shown by the move knight takes e5. It's because after all the captures, black cannot really take on e5 because of back rank checkmate.
So I didn't even notice the weak back rank. Okay, so rook a6. I'm totally fixated on bishop e2, kind of x-raying it, but not looking at the drawback of, well, now, hey, d8 square is way weaker without the rook covering it. So that would have been a logical way to find that I didn't notice.
Yeah, but it's okay, yes. We all made mistakes.
That's an interesting thing, too, I've heard is when your opponent plays a move, you can't just think of what's one downside. You got to think of like three downsides maybe, because a lot of or what are three reasons for the move? Because sometimes the less obvious ones are a lot more important, like control over the d8 square.
Yeah. So the move rook a6 is pretty logical because black wants to play rook b6 to pile up the pressure on the b3 pawn, but on the other hand, It is just tactically not working, and like while Black has spent 5 minutes for the move rook a6, so not like way too much. So that means that sometimes you should spend a bit more time, but of course sometimes it is good to just spend a few minutes if you're totally sure if you're not blundering anything. But since it is a classical game, and Arvind is a strong player, I do believe he doesn't blunder these pawns way too often. Here was just the case, but usually we shouldn't blunder these pawns on the 5. Yeah, in classical chess.
So is white is rook a6 on the board?
Yeah, rook a6 on the board, but
No.
white also didn't see the move knight x5, unfortunately.
Yeah, so this is club chess for you. The whole audience is missing it. You probably win these games like 5 times over, punishing each small mistake. So I can see why I didn't find it. I didn't find it. Connor didn't find it. But interesting to note. I'm definitely going to be looking at that weak back rank now. That's an idea that can stick in my mind. If someone does a rook lift, it's totally weakening their back rank, and I need to look for back rank tactics.
Yes. So, but white still managed to make a good move. Rook d5 is a very nice looking tempo move because it attacks as an e5 pawn here, and also it pressures the knight on c5 just in case. f6 is needed because otherwise it is very unpleasant. So f6 now. Before unfortunately was a blunder by white. The position was approximately equal. White has some pluses. Black also has some pluses of his own, and the position is dynamically equal. But I would probably prefer black here because I feel like black has a bit more harmony in his position with his piece mobilization. So, but white unfortunately blundered with d4. Actually, Chris, when I asked you about these tactics, you nicely pointed out that b4 doesn't work actually in the end because in the end they just losing the pawn on b4. I believe you pointed out, right?
Well, I said 94. I wasn't actually seeing the pawn on b4 hang, but I saw I could get a nice tempo on that queen, so you're not at least going to be able to play b5. That's what I was seeing.
Yeah, unfortunately, white has just blundered the clear pawn, and after this is already mathematically just completely losing position for white because it is heading towards the endgame, and white is a clear pawn down without any compensation. So this is just winning for black. But black played the move rook b6, which looks kind of natural, but it loses some time, some momentum. So that's why rook b6 was not good. c5 was best. Still, the bishop on b2 is hanging, and white has to play bishop a1 in order not to resign immediately, because if you play, let's say, bishop a3, then knight c3 comes. This rook is attacked, this bishop on a3 is attacked, this bishop on a2 is attacked. Way too many pieces are hanging, and white has to resign. That's why bishop a1 is needed. The same happens after bishop c1. So white has to resign. Let's say bishop a1 and simply just bishop e4. Let's say bishop c6 is in the air, and white is even losing
that rook
in exchange.
Is not looking comfortable.
Yeah, the rook is way too active. So white is just completely lost here. c5 was best. It basically c5 ends the game immediately, but unfortunately black was able to find this move and played rook b6, takes, and rook b6 according to computer was not good, but
so they're still
actually
clear pawn up. So what?
Like,
why does the rook give him so much more winning chances? Just because of the time factor, mainly. Because it still seems like, hey, clear pawn up can just eventually grind this out.
Yeah, actually, it is. Yeah, it is. It is true that basically it is a clear pawn up, and you're right, Chris. But here there is a very very nice small tactics. Not very hard, but also maybe not easy. And sometimes you can just not see it. And I believe it's a bit like at least a bit harder, but maybe even much harder than the tactics with knight takes e5, which is actually c5. White was able to find the move c5. Actually, the move c5 wins material for almost like wins the material for a white, because after takes black has to play rook a8, otherwise he's gonna lose to rook on e8. And after rook a8, rook a1, black again has to play bishop c2, and knight e1, bishop to b3, rook a3, forced invasion comes, bishop d1, and white can even play maybe rook a1, I believe, for instance, yeah. And the bishop is hanging, although maybe currently it is not such a deadly threat, because the bishop on b2 might also be hanging in the end.
So is bishop b3 back, though?
Sorry?
What if bishop b3 back?
Yeah, bishop b3 back, it is likely to just to make a repetition and ending.
White's happy with the draw here. They're down a clear pawn.
Yes, White's really happy.
There is some players in the club who actually, will decline repetitions down material. They want to win that much, but I don't think that's too often the case. I mean, chess is a draw after all. Can't be too sad about your draws unless you're 300 points higher or something.
Yeah, White's worse, Chris. I feel the most ideal, let's say, attitude towards chess is to play according to position, play objectively, because when you're way too ambitious about your results, you can get very sad if you lose the game, let's say, and you increase your chances of losing the game when you're way too ambitious. So yeah, just wanted to point out that after c5 black has to take, because if black sets with the rook, of course the b4 knight is hanging, and unfortunately black doesn't have time to take on b2 because white will just recapture on b6 with a completely winning position. So this variation is basically forced pretty much. Actually, knight takes b2, bishop e8 is apparently okay for black, because here black has c6 after bishop, let's say, e2. Black has very active play against the c5 pawn, and let's say if we play c1, then knight a2 comes, and rook c4 doesn't seem to be working that much, because knight 4 c3, and black has very active pieces against the rook. Even though black is down some material, black has only one knight and the pawn for the rook. Since white has some disharmony in his position, black is okay here. So apparently knight b2 is okay, but black has to show some accuracy here, I believe. That's why rook a8 is forced. Rook a1, basically the whole variation is forced, because bishop c2, yeah, you have to play, otherwise you are just losing material here. Knight a1, everything is pretty much forced here. So this is just heading towards the draw.
We're running a bit. We're running towards the end of the broadcast, and we got 3 games to look at. So let's try to look at the last 3 fairly quickly to make sure we get to all 3.
Yeah, great. So sure, rook b6 happened, and here, black is just down a pawn, and white's is down a pawn without any compensation. Black's pieces are much more active, and black's totally winning here. So this game has already ended, actually. White won this game.
Daniel actually almost had a draw against Samrug, the 1 seed. Pretty much dead drawn ending, and got swindled at the end. But definitely playing a very good tournament. He's an expert, so that would have been a 400-point upset draw. So it didn't happen in practice, but Daniel definitely showing he's no one to mess with.
Yeah, it's nice. And here, black is a clear pawn up without any compensation. White has just blundered a clear pawn from the opening.
Or white did, okay.
Sorry, white. White. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
wow.
That's
So
what I said.
this actually
So
so white's actually losing here. We're not losing, but
But it's I mean, not
Not
losing,
bad
but
position.
black has a pretty solid advantage. But here, black has blundered the pawn, and white is clearly better here because
now they got a nice ending.
d5 pawn is weak. D5 pawn is weak. Yeah, the bishop is better than the knight. The rook is more active here.
So we kind of got
Rook e5 is a very nice move.
mutual pawn blunders in this game.
Unfortunately, yeah, rook e5. Yeah.
Stay zoned in even when you're in a rough position because stress can turn in one move.
Yeah, unfortunately, black played way too fast. Black resigned the game when black has spent only like 8 minutes for the game, having 1 hour and 15 minutes. So
that's
not a good game.
Premature resignation there too, but I think we've all been there when you're just disgusted with a position that used to be good and now is bad. But just got to reset and do your best to play the best moves. But easier said than done sometimes. So, all right, let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, premature resignation, but objectively, white is completely winning here. But also good to mention that that black cannot do anything because white is able to maintain his bishop here. Objectively, technically winning position, but probably a premature resignation still. Yeah. So here, you see.
Yeah. So we got UV.
System.
UV is also a club regular on Thursday nights. Very strong player, and he's playing Jordan Tim, who's we already commented on the third round. He's a recent national master hyper attacking player, as we see again in this game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Jordan has just blundered knight g5, after which it is just completely losing for him.
I'm actually shocked. I thought Jordan was white. This is making so UV is solid player, but attacking player plays in all sorts of styles. So pretty cool to see him go all in on Jordan, kind of give him a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, white didn't convert his advantage way too confidently, but still it might be enough. White has pretty big advantage here. Just being 2 pawns up already. Here it's completely winning already after e4. Just the game still goes on, but the position was completely lost already. Way too many moves back. Yeah, here although since black has 43 minutes against 4 minutes, there are some practical chances, but white's position is way too easily winning, I would say.
Oh, this looks like going to be a nice upset for UV. He's probably a 200 point, or maybe Jordan's a little bit low rated right now, but let's see what their ratings are, because this is going to be a nice upset if he wins. Yeah, Jordan is 2144 and UV is 1991 live. Usually over 2000 though.
Oh, it's pretty big. Yeah, pretty solid upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jordan has blundered.
I think he's kind of hot and cold. Very strong player, but every now and then can go on a loss streak as well. Jordan, that is.
Yeah, it's social. Okay, so let's move on to another game.
He's definitely a strong player, though, so UV better close that out accurately. And we got the final game here. We got 2 total club regulars. So Nathan, again, the club tournament director, not for this tournament, but usual tournaments. And he's also who helps maintain all the GGG boards that enables this broadcast. So thank you very much to Nathan. And he's playing against John Bloomer, John is also a club regular on Thursdays, and John actually also does commentary on the channel. So John also supports the channel. So we actually have a game between 2 YouTube channel supporters. They've played each other a ton already. John plays his mainstream openings kind of on repeat for the most part, and Nathan plays a different opening every game. but pretty solid main lines, stuff that he knows is good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So we have a nice community here with the channel supporters. It's pretty nice. So,
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the supporters for sure.
Yeah,
Takes the village.
White got an advantage from the opening, but I think the last moves, knight d5 and rook b1, was. I mean, the moves of knight d5 and rook b1 were not that optimal, I feel, because White hasn't completed the whole development yet, and White's trying to make these kind of active moves. It might be still okay, but I feel like it might be way too ambitious, let's say. And after b5, rook b1, black is already pretty comfortable because still, I mean, in general, the exchange of the opponent b7 to the opponent c4 is clearly favoring black because the opponent c4 is closer to the center, which gives white more space. And that's why I feel this knight d5 was unfortunately premature. Yes, white regains the pawn, but still the exchange of the pawns clearly favor black. And here, black is already clearly better, I would say, because the position got opened up. Black has two bishops. Black's pawn structure is pretty solid, and yeah, it's just a dream position for black from the more Roxy-buying setups. Bishop e6, knight s3. Yeah, also, the knights are a bit side down. The knight on a3 is very passive on the edge of the board. Both bishops are already just staring at the white's pieces, making them uncomfortable. So black is having a very, very good position. f5 is pretty logical, trying to open up the position even more. I would probably prefer something like d5 because I feel like f5 is somehow weakening the king a bit, but objectively it is still a good move. Yeah, so, but f5 happened, it's good enough. Still black remains with a solid advantage. Takes, queen e2, bishop f7. Now black's rook on f8 has developed nicely. Rook fd1, queen g7, c1, queen b7, queen c2. Okay, yeah. It seems like black's advantage is only growing, and after knight b4, already, since most of black's pieces are better placed, the position is already mathematically lost for white because black is already creating some threats. White's pieces are not optimally placed, and yeah, after queen d2, you can even take on a2, but black decided to play it more ambitiously with rook d5 and then take on a2. So basically black has two bishops in an open position. Black is a pawn down, pawn up. Almost all of black's pieces are much more active, which means that black's position is technically just completely winning. So queen b3. I think knight b4 was more natural because the knight on a2 is not that good. But okay, queen b3 is still good enough because black's position is way too good, you know. Here, d1, rook h5. So black is a pawn up still. Check here, knight d5. Black didn't blunder because knight d5 is there. So yeah, now maybe white's position is not as bad as it was before because white has the move queen takes a6 here, and white regains the pawn, but still white's position remains very difficult, I believe. And yeah, also looking at the time management, white has only 3 minutes against 34 minutes. I believe I would bet that black is going to win this game. Not only because black is much better, but also because white doesn't have much time here.
All right, perfect. Well, we did actually get through all the games. We know there's some updates on some past games that we're not going back to, but this is kind of a partial round broadcast, so we are going to be coming back for the final round this afternoon with myself and National Master Jonathan Georgiou. And let me go ahead and also do a quick plug for our sponsor before we sign off here. So we do have a sponsor for the channel, chessgoals.com. Simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. Learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines. So Alisher, unfortunately, you're one of the only people excluded from their marketing, since it's specifically targeting non-grandmasters, but still could check that out if you wanted to. And they basically got beginner or club level repertoires and both openings and non-openings that are curated by National Master Matt Jensen, who was commenting yesterday. And yeah, I actually own their Catalan course, and I'm in their Discord and see Matt responding to all the questions people have about any of the various courses they put out. So definitely check out chessgoals.com, and if you make any purchases, use the coupon code CASTLE to save 30%, and the Chess Castle will also get a portion of the sale. And with that, we're going to definitely just thank Alisher for coming on the stream. Very, very much appreciated your insights on all the games, and very exciting to see a Grandmaster commentate on all of our club games. But hopefully we'll get to see you back in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thank you, dear viewers, and thank you all, just in general. It's been nice to talk with all of you, to commentate today, and I hope to see somewhere you guys in the future. So it was nice to talk today, and see you there.